Hello and welcome to Going for Broadway. I'm Eryn and each week I chat with playwrights, directors, actors, talent agents, and many others who live their lives in, on, and around the stage. I'm sharing their secrets so you, too, can join me on this journey towards Broadway. Hey, so fun fact. Eddie Redmayne, who was Marius in the 2012 Les Mis movie, is colorblind. So just imagine. Gray, I feel my soul on fire. Gray, my world, she's not there. Gray, the color of desire. Gray, the color of despair.
Welcome to the Going for Broadway podcast with Eryn Wu. Eryn is a young performer who has acted and sung in many plays and has dreams of reaching Broadway. Each day is another step closer to that goal.
Hey everybody, welcome to Going for Broadway. Today I have Adam Jacobs with us. Originally from Half Moon Bay, California, Adam Jacobs began his early performing career as a pianist, studying at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. He then decided to take another route and start to articulate his creative outlet through art classes and musical theater. So from starring in shows throughout middle school at community theaters, and along with the help of his high school mentor, Adam discovered his love for the theater and made it his decision to pursue a career in the arts. While attending St. Ignatius College Preparatory, he was fortunate enough to star in shows including Billy Bigelow and Carousel and Drummond in Inherit the Wind. At New York University's Tisch School of the Arts, Adam studied with the Collaborative Arts Project Musical Theater Program, or CAP 21, as well as the Stone Street Film and Television programs. With a BFA in theater, he began to work in regional theaters and perform on cruise ships. Adam's big break came from the opportunity to play Marius in the national tour of Les Mis, which eventually led him to being cast in the Broadway production of the same as his Broadway debut. So since Les Mis, he's been rocking it out with production after production, doing national tours, or the Broadway productions of Mamma Mia, The Lion King, Once on This Island, Mary Poppins, and currently Aladdin. He now makes his home in New York City with his wife, Kelly, and his adorable twin boys, Jack and Alex. So Adam, when did you decide that you wanted to be an actor?
Well, in high school is where I really got the bug to be an actor. I had some great teachers and mentors that really supported me and encouraged me to pursue a career in the arts, namely Peter Devine, that he was my really big influence on me. And I got to play some really great roles. I got to play Chain Evita and Billy Bigelow and Carousel. And once I started hearing that applause and feeling the live connection between the audience and the actors, that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Right. And so did you see yourself then doing all that you've done today?
No, I mean, it was always a dream from high school on that I would someday make it to Broadway, but I never knew it was really actually going to happen. I set my sights on it and hoped, but luckily for me, I'm, one of the few, I think it's like 1% of actors that actually make it to this level.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate.
Yeah. And so you graduated from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts, where you studied with the Collaborative Arts Project Musical Theater Program. And also these...
That's right, CAP 21.
Yes.
That's right.
Also the Stone Street Film and Television Studios program. So what about this university brought you to attending there?
It was in the right location, number one. I mean, you have Broadway right there. Plus, New York City is such a cultural magnet, I guess would be the right word. And then, with all the art museums and the avant-garde theater and the off-Broadway stuff, and it was very exciting. And I knew as a creative person that this was the place to be. And NYU also had some great teachers that not only were telling you some amazing lessons, but they were also performing at night. So I can go see them practice what they preached, essentially. And got to see their work in action. And then that's when the light bulbs all click and you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Really. It's one thing to be listening and trying to do it yourself, but then when you see your teacher do it, you're like, oh, okay, now I get what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. So how has receiving your education there prepared you for working on Broadway currently?
Well, at Cap 21, I got to sing, dance, and act all in one conservatory-based studio. So that was great. 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, I would go and study dance, acting, and voice for 3 hours a week each. So it was fantastic. And I really, hadn't danced until I got to college. So that was what I had to work on the most. And I never captained a show before Aladdin. So I really had to work on that before this show.
Yeah. And so you said Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays you did the musical theater stuff?
That's right. And then I did my liberal arts courses.
Okay.
And humanities courses on the other days.
So all the film and television studio stuff as well?
That was after so I did my primary studio for 2 years, which was CAP, and then I switched over to Bone Street Film and Television just to get a little on-camera experience.
Right. Many of my audience are in high school, like myself, with dreams of being an actor like you. So you trained at university. Yeah. On the other hand, I'm sure you work with a lot of actors who haven't. How important do you think it is to go to university or train in programs for the performing arts and investing in that additional 4 years plus versus just starting to go straight at it and audition for jobs?
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough call because I think it's an individual thing. I mean, it really depends on the person. If you're the type of person that feels like they need, I recommend doing a program, even if it's only 2 years as opposed to 4 years, only because you need to have a foundation, and you need to learn and sort of strip away all those bad habits that you may have learned or picked up along the way in your high school and community theater gigs. You want to sort of figure out what works for you, and you might not have the opportunity to do that unless you're in a school setting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, people could just go right into shows and learn by doing, which is great, but you need to have a strong acting core in order to branch out into all the other fields.
Right. You've also attended many summer programs at conservatories and preparatories such as the St. Ignatius College Preparatory American Conservatory Theater and the California Institute of the Arts in Valencia, California. So what were these programs like?
Some of them were summer programs, like the California State Summer School of the Arts, the Institute, and also the ACT summer program I did. And a lot of it was taking a new play and working with a writer and putting it up on stage first time. Like that was the ACT program, which was cool. The summer school program in Valencia was more, I took West African drumming classes. I took a lot of different things, some opera classes, some vocal and breathing technique and voice and speech classes. And the more versatile and the more broad-based knowledge you have, I think the more well-rounded actor you can be will help you. You never know when those skills might come into play in any show or gig that you may have. Like, for example, like our Iago is a really good magician, and he does like sleight of hand stuff, and he has that skill, and he's like worked on it. And in almost every show he's done, he's employed those skills. He's used them. Right. You know, even if you're a hip hop dancer, don't think that that's not going to help you in musical theater, because it probably will at some point.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you get involved in these programs? Were they things that you had to audition for?
Yeah, I did have to audition for them, do a song and a monologue or something like that. And yeah, luckily I was good enough to get in.
Right. And you said that you did a lot of different aspects of performing in these conservatories. And so has that done the same kind of preparation to you as going to college has into being the successful actor you are today?
Yeah, no, I think these programs, for example, the one at ACT, like, they were very influential on my career. it was my first time doing a straight play, like a serious straight play, and working with a writer as well in the room, like that's invaluable and different. You don't get that opportunity very much. So every one of these programs had something unique that they offered, and I was able to learn from them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my advice is to just get into as many classes and try to sponge up as much as you can, because that's only going to help you later on in your career.
Yeah. Right, and so you got your big break from doing the national tour of Les Mis as Marius, and eventually going on to performing in the show as your Broadway debut. So how did you get involved in this tour and being able to take a step up onto Broadway?
Well, before I got onto the national tour of Les Mis, I was going through a tough time, actually. I hadn't worked for about a year, but I was auditioning for the same casting directors, and over a period of time, they got to know me and my work and got to trust my work. And when the timing came through that role was open in that show, they cast me in it. And that's how I got into that show. And I did the tour for a year and a half before we found out that the show was then coming to Broadway. And at the time, a lot of the people on the road were flying to New York to audition. And I also didn't actually fly to New York to audition. I came in later in the process because I had actually just left the tour to get married. And I said to them, I actually wrote a letter to the casting and to Cameron McIntosh. And I was like, hey guys, keep me in mind for the Broadway revival. I got to go get married, see you later.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I came back and auditioned in New York when I came back because they were still auditioning. And I went in with my Cosette from the road, and we did our thing, and Cameron loved it as well as casting, and they hired us, and that's how I got my debut. I didn't think that I was going to get the role. When my agent called me, I thought they were going to offer me the cover, because I was like, there's no way they're going to hire me. They're going to hire somebody like Ricky Martin, who played the role, like some star, but it turns out that I got lucky and they wanted me. So I was super excited.
And just may I ask, what is that lifestyle like of touring and going from city to city, performing in front of so many different audiences?
Well, when you're fresh out of college, it's very exciting. But after 4 national tours, which is how many I've done, by the 3rd and 4th tour, you're like, I'm getting a little not happy about living out of a suitcase, essentially. So, I had to sort of draw the line after the 4th tour and be like, all right, I told my agent I don't want to go out on the road anymore. I want to be home. I have a base, sleep in my own bed. Mm-hmm. And you sort of have to make that decision. And if it means turning down a gig, then that's what it means, but you just have to sort of know what you want. It's important to know what you want.
Yeah.
And know what your worth is in the type of things that you're willing to do and what not to do. So, but touring, when I did it, it was super fun. And because you really get to bond with the people out there, because you only have each other and you're like a family.
Mm-hmm. And you had the opportunity to work with some more amazing Broadway veterans such as Lea Salonga, Norm Lewis, Judy Kunn. How was that experience of working alongside them?
Oh, it was amazing working with Judy Kuhn and Norm Lewis and those guys and Leah. I learned so much just from watching them rehearse and watching them, make adjustments, and when the director would give them an adjustment and how they took it and how they made the adjustment. It was a masterclass just watching them put up the show and doing their stuff. So I learned a lot about how to really ask the right questions and create a character from them. So I'm so glad that I had that experience.
Right. And so after Les Mis, you went on to being in so many more Broadway shows, Mamma Mia, Lion King, Once on This Island, and currently in Aladdin, just one show after another. So how did you transition?
Well, those weren't all Broadway shows, because Aladdin's my 3rd Broadway show.
Okay.
Once on This Island was at Paper Mill, and Mamma Mia was a national tour. It wasn't the Broadway production, but I have been fortunate enough to keep working. And there really is no secret to that, except that if there is a secret, it would be that I've maintained a positive attitude And I've never really been a diva or divo, I guess is the word. Like, I think the idea of a diva in this business, it's sort of like this mythical thing where you think that, like, Patti LuPone and, like, there are certain people who can do these things and get away with it, but it's not like that anymore. Like, that was maybe the golden age of musical theater. The reality is now you just have to be good to work with, and if you're easy to work with, that matters so much more than what people really think it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because all it takes is one negative comment, because there could be like 10 people in the casting room and one negative comment from the PA, you know, that worked with you in some regional gig 10 years ago, could say something negative, and then that kills it. You don't get the job because of that. So your reputation is very important. And I've worked hard to just sort of be respected. Like, I just want to be respected. I've always told myself I just want to be respected for doing good work. That's all that I really want.
Mm-hmm.
And whether I get awards recognition or not is beyond the point. But the point is, you just want to do good work and be respected for that. Like, that's all that I want. And to keep creating and be fulfilled creatively. Like, that's the goal.
In a show like Lion King, which was on Broadway?
Yes.
Coming into a show like that has been running for a bit, did you come in as a replacement for it?
Yes. Yes, I did.
You'd have to learn roles quickly?
You have to learn. You don't have as much freedom as when you're creating a role, like I did with Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
When I went in for Simba, I was told where to go, where to stand, some of the, even down to the gestures, you know, it's tough to feel like it's coming from an organic place. You sort of have to work backwards when you're as a replacement. And it's difficult because, you know, if you're not used to working like that, it's hard. But then on the flip side, if you get a chance to originate a role, like, that's every actor's dream, because you could then really make it fit you and bring your specific take. You put your specific stamp on the role. And then everybody after you who does it will have to do sort of what you did. But you have the freedom, though, to create that, and that's really special.
Yeah, it just leads into the next thing. You're the very first Aladdin on Broadway. And like you said, being in the original Broadway cast of a brand new show is different from being in a show that has been running for a long time.
Right.
So even when you're just starting rehearsals of a show that is older, how is the rehearsals and all the processes, the steps that you have to go through with you and your cast members, different from a brand new show?
Well, when you're being put into a role and into a long-running show, initially you just rehearse with the dance captain. And you'll be in a room at Ripley Greer or somewhere in the studio, and you'll be learning the choreography, and you're pretty much learning everything you need to know from one or two people. You know, like the dance supervisor and the dance captain and a stage manager, and they're teaching you all the acting, and the resident director will be there as well. But you're not really working as a team with the cast like you are in a new show, where everybody's learning together. And then it's very nerve-wracking when you go to your put-in for a long-running show, because everybody already has an impression and idea of what it's supposed to be and what they think it should be, and then you're coming in and doing something, you know, different and doing your own take, and so it feels like there's some more pressure to be stepping into a role like that.
Yeah.
And then for a show like Aladdin, everybody's on the same footing, so it's not as much pressure when you first perform, because everyone's performing for the first time together.
Right. So how long did the rehearsal process for Aladdin take? And I'm sure there were a bunch of changes that came along all the time, too.
That's right. We rehearsed for about a month for each of the productions, the one in Seattle, Toronto, and New York. And in each of those 3 months, so many changes, so many. Like, you would never even recognize the show from the beginning to now. You know, whole scenes were cut, songs were added, songs from the film were taken and put into the show and then taken back out. And some days we would get 20 pages of lines that we had to learn and put into the show that night. So it was tough. You had to learn to be adaptable and and not married to any one joke or any one line that you say, well, why are they cutting that? I love that.
Yeah.
Like, no, they cut it for a reason. They're streamlining it. You don't need it. So you learn to be a little bit more clinical as an actor, and
right.
and sort of trust the book writer in a creative process like that. You sort of have to trust that they're doing what's best.
Right. And I was even told that when you're doing the preview shows, you'll be rehearsing a totally different thing and then performing it that night.
That's right. During previews is when most of the changes actually happen.
Okay.
Because you get in front of an audience and you realize, oh, this is not working how we thought it was going to work. So then that's when a lot of changes happen.
Right. And so like you mentioned before, do these previews happen in Seattle and Toronto?
Yep. We had previews in both, and we had about 3 weeks of previews each, I think.
All right. Cool. And so 8 shows a week is a lot. How are you able to keep yourself, your body, and your voice strong and healthy when you're performing all the time?
Yeah, 8 shows, it's not easy. It is sort of like running a marathon every week, and we have to know how to pace ourselves while still giving 100% or maybe 90%, and never appear like you're marking. You always want to give as much as you can. And because it is such a heavy workload, you do have to do all those things that athletes do, like eat correctly and rest well and take care of your voice and not go out and party and try to talk in loud rooms and things like that. So you have to be more aware and a little bit more disciplined and strict with your behavior, essentially. But it doesn't mean you have to be a monk, but it just means you have to be more aware and know how to protect yourself.
Right. And so are there any specific tips or hacks that you've learned just being an actor all this time? Certain foods or drinks or something?
Well, drinking a lot of water is always helpful. You can never be too hydrated. Like, just carrying water around is great. I try to get as much sleep as I can because for me, that's the most recuperative thing I can do for my voice. So I tend to sleep. Although with 2 twin boys, it's not the easiest thing to do these days because I have kids now. But those would be the main things. Just and not eating heavy foods like before show or right before bed, because as a singer, acid reflux is a big problem for a lot of singers.
Yeah.
And so you never want to eat too much right before bed or even before a show where you're jumping around like I am.
And like you mentioned, your kids, how are you able to balance out having a family?
Luckily, I have a wife who is awesome, and she's like my pillar and my rock, and she is home with them, stay-at-home mom right now, and she lets me sleep in the morning a little bit, and that makes the biggest difference. Because I can sleep in, I get the rest that I need in order to do the show. So yeah. I'm not up at 6 or 7 with the boys. She's up with them and doing breakfast. So, and then I try to give her a break and let her have a nap later on in the day, and I watch the boys, and so we've made it work. And it's a crazy busy time for us, but we wouldn't have it any other way. It's super fulfilling, and they're so cute, and I love watching them. They're such a great age right now where they're like just starting to say words and play with each other a little bit more and sort of like wrestle and fight and hit and bite and all those things too. But it's great. It's all good.
Yeah, and I guess it does make it a little easier since they are living in New York too.
Well, yeah. I mean, because we're in Queens, I'm a 20-minute ride away from work to them. So that's very, very good.
Yeah, because I've talked with other people that just have had their families across the country or in other places.
That's hard.
Yeah,
especially with little ones. Like, I would never want to be that far away and miss this time. I wouldn't want to miss this time with them.
Yeah. In closing, what advice would you like to give to aspiring young actors in reaching their goals in acting and potentially being on Broadway or going on tour?
I like to tell young aspiring artists to just hang on to that passion that you have for the arts and don't let anyone take that from you. And remember what got you into the business in the first place and have fun. The main thing is even though it's a lot of work, you never want to lose your positivity, and you can still remain focused, but also enjoy yourself, which is why you got into business, right?
Right.
And because at the core, in everyone's heart of who's a performer, you have that desire to make a connection with people and to tell stories. We're all storytellers. So the more that you can sort of tap into that part of yourself that is magical and mystical, I know it sounds a little cheesy, but that's sort of what you need to do to keep going in this business, because it can be hard. You just have to keep going and force yourself to stay positive.
Great. And do you have any thoughts for these parents of these aspiring young actors?
I would tell the parents not to be too worried, because getting a drama degree doesn't mean that they're going to be sleeping on the street. And the skills that they develop in college will transfer to any other avenue of life that they may end up doing, right? If they're in sales or anything. Like, having acting as a base is a great skill to have. You'll be able to work with people and build relationships and communicate well. So I tell parents, don't worry. Don't worry about it. Let your kid go out there and have fun and do what they want to do, and let them follow their dreams, and you'll be happier for it.
Adam, thank you so much again for being here with us today and sharing all of your experiences and insights with us.
It's my pleasure.
Hey, so I hope you enjoyed that interview with Adam Jacobs. Thank you once again, Adam, for being on the show. And thank you for all that are listening. I cannot wait for the next session. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait for you to hear it. So just keep on killing it out there, you guys, and do your best. Take some action. See you soon.